nonprofit international startup accelerator and competition. And right now we're in the middle of our cohort. We have 68 startups right now, and we are in the middle of the competition, so please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you want to learn more about us. Today we are hosting the Magicians of Marketing, which is learning how to build an audience from startup to scale up. So thank you all for attending. This is a great amount of people, and thank you. I would like to go ahead and also thank our partners, which is Capital Factory. They gave us this lovely space, and also the food that came into this. We have right today Kitchen for the Soul in the back. They're a plant-based Latin fusion food truck that's at Spider House, if you ever want to check them out, as well as we have Tamale Addiction. And to give you some introductions, we also have our next event, which will be happening on August 14th, and that will be basically graduating from an accelerator, and that will be at Industrious. So I hope that if any of y'all would like to learn more about what it's like to graduate from an accelerator and what to expect, or if you're thinking about joining an accelerator, this could be very insightful for those that are interested in learning more about that. And then I would like to skipping that. I would like to also give Rug, I would like to Rug, one of our startups who specializes in marketing, to give a quick talk about what they do. They're in the back, and if you want to learn more about them, they're over there. This is Brandon of Rug.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Thurman. I'm the CEO of Rug, and the Chief Marketing Officer, Geetsika, she's back there helping out. But basically what we're building is a mobile platform to drive more consumers to small businesses and minority communities. And what we want to do is incentivize consumers to shop more often at those businesses and incentivize those businesses to reinvest in those communities. And so if you want to check us out and learn more about what we're doing, our journey through the MSTC program here at UT, just come back there. We're happy to talk to you and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, so next, we have, as an introduction, Moby, who is our moderator. And Moby is of the Fire Show podcast. He's a podcaster, event host, and speaker in Austin. And he moved to Texas in 2010. He's also working towards building a platform to help creators and founders create and sell digital products. So give a round of applause to Moby. And then we also have our panelists. To my left is Alex Burkett. He is of HubSpot. Alex works on user acquisition growth for HubSpot's freemium products, sitting at the intersection of SEO conversion rate, optimization, content, and campaigns. Alex leverages data to prioritize the highest impact of user acquisition projects to bring thousands of net new users to HubSpot's growing suite of products. And then over here, we have Justin Rondeau. He's of Digital Marketer, and he leads the product innovation at True Conversion. He specializes in running marketing campaigns across all digital channels, improving digital experiences to help grow businesses, and is also the intersection in data, karaoke, split testing, mustaches, and the Boston Bruins. We also have right here Nicole Forbes. Nicole Forbes is with a deep history in sales and marketing across multiple sectors. She currently works for BigCommerce and oversees various portfolios of partners and strategic alliances, one of which is marketing and merchandising. And then also over here, we have Rachel Holton of Austin Foodstagram. Rachel Holton is the founder of Austin Foodstagram, a food style and travel blog based in Austin, Texas. She has since run social media and influencing marketing programs for Favorite Delivery, as well as starting her own influencer marketplace for bloggers and brands to connect called Trend. In 2018, Ms. Holton went full-time on her blog, and she focuses her attention on creating content for brand partners and local restaurants. So please give one more round of applause to all of our panelists. And again, thank you all for attending. And also, before I forget, one more thing. Please go to the desk and validate your parking after the event. If you came here after 5 o'clock, from 5 to whenever, they'll validate it and give you only $7 to validate your parking. You still got to pay, but $7. So it's better than more than that. So yeah, thank you. And I hope you all enjoy the panel discussion. So.
Ow! Woo! What's up? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, I heard myself. Cool. How are y'all today? Cool. All right, so before we jump into questions, let's get a poll. Who here is at an idea stage? Like you haven't started working on it, but you have an idea that you want to build a business off. Okay, a few people. Cool. Who here is doing it as a side hustle? You might be making some money, you might not be, but you're like, I want to quit my job in 6 to 12 to 18 months. Cool. Who here is full-time right now in their company? Awesome. Who here has enough money to pay for themselves and is not looking for more marketing? Nobody. Cool. All right. One. Boom. So we're going to just go through, okay, the basics of marketing, what to do, what not to do, and let's just jump right into it. The first question, when you're building, I'll just go over it here, by the way. Boom. The first question, when you're building something, when you've built something, what's the balance between marketing it and focusing on making it better? Because this idea, right, you build it, they will come. That's complete bullshit, right? They will not come unless you go out there. So how do you find that balance of, I'm building this thing, I'm building the infrastructure, working with team members, but also promoting what you're building right at the same time? How do you do that?
Yeah, is this thing on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. So I love this question. I actually feel like I built my brand like years before I actually made any money off of it. So I obviously think branding is really important, but marketing is as well. I think that the brand, like establishing your brand early on and having clear, a clear like logo and setting out of what you're going to do, and then I would go into product from there. I think having a good product and or service is super important. For me, it was really just my brand was built around establishing myself as a food a food influencer, whatever term you want to use, but somebody who knew a lot about food, almost like an expert in that space, and that's what I first became known for. And then it wasn't until later, I continued on that for years before I started having like advertisers and a bunch of people that wanted to work together. So I think that's super important. I think if you're starting out in your business and you're only focused on sales, then you might want to take a step back and look at like, what is the brand that I've created? What is the value add of this service? So I think that's super important early on.
Do you know Gary Vaynerchuk? Yes. Russell Brunson? Aubrey Marcus? Right, so these people have done what is actually what you were doing, which is build brands, and you know of the person before the company, and then you find out about the company through the person. Like building a personal brand, becoming an expert around the problem or need that your customer has. That's one thing that you can start doing. Nicole, for you, what advice would you have when you balance it? But also, you've been working in partnerships for a long time. How do you start building partnerships as you're starting when you don't have a lot of things to do, a lot of money to give. Sorry, I'm sure you're very busy. How do you do that when you're just starting off?
So yeah, I think that when you're building a personal brand or a lifestyle brand, exactly what you were talking about is what you want to focus on. I work more in the tech and SaaS sector, and like the brand itself, if you ask anybody who's built a tech company, your logo has changed 50 times in 2 years. And maybe your core offering has even changed. So the brand is not important. It is the product and client, like cost of acquisition and your burn rate. So there's when you think about marketing and branding from that standpoint and partnering, what do you have to offer the partner's client? Not even necessarily the partner. If you don't have any money and you can't pay to be in their partner program, most partner programs that HubSpot, we can talk partner programs all day long. If you want to know partner programs, they have the best like case study for partner programs ever. Like go look at HubSpot, read their story about their building their entire business off partnerships, like that is where they exploded, and that's a way better story than I can tell.
I'm going to ask you for a summary, Alex.
But do you know
No
this
pressure.
He's like, let me pull out that case study for you. But just kind of like hone it back down to when you're at that place and what's important. If you don't have the money to kind of build an integration into one of the bigger platforms or pay for a partner, the program fees or take 20 to 15 to 30% of your rev share when you're starting out, you might not even really have revenue. You might be running in the black, and so taking part of your rev share to give to a partner is not going to be a thing. You have to focus on what you're doing organically for their client. So what is the service that you're providing or the solution that you're providing that is giving so much benefit to their merchant? In my case, because I'm a e-commerce platform, I care about like, what are you doing for our merchants? But it could be whatever it is, right? Whatever their client is, what are you doing for them to grow their business? Because that's how they make money. So find that roundabout way. At the end of the day, it's all going to come back to the dollar. Like, you can be super good friends or have a great network, but like, if it doesn't make financial sense, they're not going to do it. With regard to partnerships, that's kind of where that stands.
So quick question. Who here feels that they have a great elevator pitch when they're going out and talking to people, they just nail it every single time? Okay, a few. And I feel that is a work in progress. Quick question. How many of you seen that? You talked about the logo being changed. The perception of that company, how does that change over time when talking to partners? Because you always refine your product and what you're saying about the product, right? You can't be perfect from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, so I guess just like when you're first starting out, you probably like got your logo done by a friend or by Fiverr or Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that actually, I think that like if you're in business right now, you don't have a logo yet, get some MS Paint and go on there. People will be like, so nostalgic.
I did that with my blog, actually.
See?
Hey, yeah.
See? No, but that's the thing. And then like as you grow, you kind of like your business model is going to change a little bit. You're going to figure that out. But yeah, so I think, dude, I totally forgot what you actually asked me.
Oh, just how your elevator pitch changes over time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no one's is perfect. No one comes off the gate and says,
always-
I know my shit. Look at what I'm selling.
Look, your elevator pitch is only to get people interested in hearing more about you. Like, your elevator pitch is for the purpose of getting a meeting. End of story. Like, and it has to be so simple and so clear. So pick the one thing. It doesn't matter what your company does or what your solution is. Pick the one thing that you do really well that's easily transferable and consumable by somebody else. And that's it. That's all your focus. Like, all you want to do is get them interested enough to have the meeting. And then once you have the meeting, you can explain the numbers, you can explain the like harder stuff, you can get into the tech. Don't ever get into tech with like VCs or even if they're technical, don't get into it. If they start asking you questions, fine. But like, don't hit that. Don't be like, oh, well, so we did this big thing and now we're doing this AI and machine learning. First of all, that immediately people just shut off when you start talking about that, because like all those buzzwords, we hear them so often, like we don't care.
Blockchain.
So yeah, it's like you kind of like instantly turn into like Napoleon Dynamite, where it's just like, oh. Like you're just there to feed Tina Ham, apparently. Like the thing is like, get one thing that you do really well, focus on that, have that down, get the meeting, end of story, shut up. Like, silence is key. The more silent you are after that, like, don't like ignore them, but like, don't keep talking. If they've stopped talking, stop talking. And this is whether this is a client, this is whether this is a VC, potentially something else. Like, just stop. Like, let them sit on that for a second. And the silence actually gives you this feeling of confidence, or at least this image of confidence, even if you don't have it. Because it's like, yeah, that's what we do. We're really, really good at it. Let's talk more. Stop talking. The next person who talks loses.
Yeah, I love that. I just was talking to Chris, and he pitched me his idea, and it was just based on benefits and what it does for the customer, that I said, oh, that's first of all, that was really good to help me understand what your startup does. But also, it's so specific and it's so beneficial that I can say, oh, this guy hosts a podcast about hiring. You should talk to him. That elevator pitch, I know we're talking about branding and everything else, but that matters because it gets you the next thing.
Yeah.
So,
Or it
You
gets you, or it gets you where they say, I don't actually know anything about that, or I don't care about it, but I know somebody who does.
Yeah.
But it has to be so simple that they know their friend is interested.
So, Justin, you don't have a mic, do you? So, you're also a stand-up comedian? Okay. So you just wrote a post about best practices, right?
Oh, yeah, I read that one.
Yeah. I know. I read that one. So, what are the best practices of marketing as you're developing? Who here is solo right now? The solo founder. Okay, a few. Okay, who has a team of less than 5 people? Nice. Okay, who here has a full-time marketing person? Okay, a few people. So, what's that like? What are the best practices as you are making it? But you gotta promote it. You've got to talk to people. You've got to make content, SEO, SEM.
Pretty much, it's one, you just have to, it goes back to what you were just saying. It's you have to have something worth talking about, and then you have to be able to say it concisely. If you're not good at copywriting, you're screwed. You're absolutely dead in the water. And I'm not talking about just like content copywriting and those types of things. I'm talking about direct response persuasive copywriting. If you cannot persuade somebody within 3 seconds to like know what you're doing and then take an action, you are sunk. Right? Copywriting is the most essential thing you need as a marketer. And if you're going to be going out there and being like, hey, I have this product, it's pretty good, like I need to make sure that it gets in front of people, you need to have a message that will convince them that you're as good as you think you are. Because most people are skeptical on that side of things, and you just need to be damn good at writing. Like if you suck at writing, you suck.
Nice.
Can I take a quick poll? How many of you guys have gone to a website and you feel like it's something in your industry that you should know, and you have no fucking clue what the website actually, like what they do?
What the company does, yeah.
What does the company do?
That's so many people.
So often.
Is it your company? I'm kidding.
So exactly. And it's the, no, go ahead. But it's in that hero element in that first thing. Like you got to be able to tell us what you do.
Yeah, a cool trick you can do. This thing saves my life all the time because I'll get convoluted with things and then I have to go, hey, do this better. But what you can do is do a 5-second test to anything. There's actually a tool called Usability Hub. Use that. You can use it with mockups. You can use it with anything, and it will go like this. It'll say, hey. Actually, I did this to my website because I fucked it up. I had it was talking about a community and some other things like that, and I was trying to get people to take some of our trainings, and I was focusing so hard on the community and not talking about trainings. I put a 5-second test up that said it just showed the homepage in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then it asked them, do you know what this company does? And they're like, no. And that was our homepage for 1.5 years. Yeah. Even people who are good at this stuff do it wrong. That's also, I think, something that people need to understand. When you're getting started and where you're doing things right now, you'll always have imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter, but everybody, as good as you get, you still screw it up because you're too close to your own damn product. You're too close to these things. You need to know how to articulate it. That's all it is. That is all marketing is. Have something worth talking about it, say it concisely, and persuade. Do it. That's all.
Yeah, because that when you're meeting somebody, when you have an ad, when you post a photo, when you have a LinkedIn post, anything, your copywriting is the variable which gets you attention, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Any other tips for copywriting? One big tip, because I like the 5-second one.
Another one is generally, if you have a headline and a subheadline, switch them.
For testing or generally?
Just do it, because I bet what you did is you're relying too much on the subheadline to do what the headline should.
Cool.
God, I'm personally attacked by this.
Yeah.
I feel like it's 100% correct.
All right, Alex. So that case study, I'm kidding. So you worked a lot with freemium products, right?
Yep.
You did that when you started HubSpot. How do you get attention through content? How do you put, I'm building something, and I might be on Instagram, I might be on LinkedIn, might be putting out a blog post, might be talking to people. How do I get attention for something I'm building? Even if it's not to sell them, but to say, check this article that I wrote, please read the whole thing, it's only 3 minutes, please give me a like or something. Please.
I'm speaking from a way different position than a lot of people will be because HubSpot started writing content 12 years ago before their product was even launched. So with the whole brand versus product thing, the founders wrote a book called Inbound Marketing, built a huge brand, started a blog, and built up a huge audience, and then launched a really mediocre product, and the product's been getting better and better ever since, and that's now why we can lead with freemium in our products. So I can literally just write a blog post and it'll get ranked by Google, no matter what competitiveness the keyword is. Like, this is a very privileged position, but I've worked for startups too. So my first 2 companies were Lawn Starter, that was pre-seed, I joined. Actually, Techstars in Austin, they went through. And then Conversion XL. So there, we didn't have quite the domain authority or the ability to rank new pages on Google. So we relied on content quality. So basically, everything we wrote had to be, one, supremely well written, unique, something different than the rest of the people were writing. So if I wrote a post on A/B testing statistics, it had to be cleaner, clearer, probably longer, with better graphics, and just a generally better piece of content. But then I had to invest a ton of time into like content promotion too. So I had to do networking. I had to build relationships with different people in like PR and like bloggers and like people who could link back to me. And I spent a ton of my time doing that. So when you're small, when you don't have like the brand equity or domain authority, you have to create expensive content essentially. So we have a huge content team at HubSpot. We publish probably 20, 30 times a week. We don't do any promotion other than to our email list, and things just rank. We have that privilege because we've built up a flywheel over a decade where we have a ton of backlinks. We have a ton of traffic, and we have a ton of people who are just searching for HubSpot because they know we write content. But when you're small, you have to really create like one piece for every like maybe 30 that we create, and make sure that one is better than anything else out there. That's what I would say. It's like a sliding scale.
In this age of Instagram and TikTok and younger markets going to that, it was nailed down to me this year that why are you not blogging? That's so stupid if you think that's over. Who here blogs for their company on their company blog? Cool. Why is that important? Anyone can jump in. Why is SEO and blogging still important?
Well, I mean, obviously you don't even being like someone who started on Instagram, like I don't own Instagram's platform, so my brand, for it to stand alone, like has to have a website, it has to pop up on Google and be really high up. So obviously SEO is important in that. I mean, you build your brand over time, and any type of content marketing, you're driving the most traffic through having a lot of content on your site, right? So you want to have things that kind of, not only like when you go to a web page, like you don't know what they do right away, that's obviously a problem, but like what if you actually do care to learn more? Like where do you go to find out all of that information? What are these helpful resources? And usually those can be found in a blog. So no matter like what type of business you have, usually blogging can help you. When I was with Favor, we used blogs a lot, and we partnered with different types of bloggers, like they were saying, and they would link back to our site, and that actually drove up our own SEO. So that became a really big part of our strategy at one point once we kind of put that all together, like, oh, we should be doing this. But it's really important, especially as a part of content marketing and building your own brand as a startup.
Yeah, I think you should look at it like renting versus owning. Right? When you start doing SEO and you're building up your organic reach, that's you trying to own that media, right? When you're doing advertisements or anything there, you're renting it, right? You're not in control. You're playing in their sandbox. You're in their backyard, okay? So you need to make sure that you really want to like double down on SEO. We made a mistake at Digital Marketer probably we fixed it about 2.5 years ago, where we were damn good at advertisements, and man, were we renting a lot. Okay, when everybody just jumped on Facebook even more and it became way more competitive and all that stuff started happening, everybody's conversion rates went down, everybody's cost per conversion went up. It just got real bad because it got so competitive, and we didn't have the authority that we should have for the brand that we were then. Now we do. We doubled, tripled down. We got like probably one of the best SEO people I know to join the team, who actually now runs the marketing department. I don't anymore. It's weird. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. No, it's nuts. Like, think of an SEO and anything like that as you're owning that media, and then the trick is not just getting them there, but then having them do something on top of that. You get them there, have them subscribe to something. Don't have them subscribe to a newsletter. No one wants another fucking newsletter. Okay, get them to subscribe to like something that's specific, that's content specific to the piece that they're reading, like base it off of categories. Get them to sign up for that. Forums are not dead. Shut up, Drift. They work really well, and you still use them. So it's one of those things. Make sure that you aren't haphazard about your strategy. Make sure, like, one of the things, we have 3 areas on a blog post, 4 areas actually, where there's a promotion for some sort of lead magnet or some kind of one of our core offerings. It's in a line of text underneath the image. It's halfway through. It's at the bottom, and then we have one on the sidebar. 4 areas, and then every now and then, if it's if you're a new visitor and you've been on the page for about 30 seconds and it's a certain type of topic, you're going to get a pop-up as well. So we hit them pretty hard, and they stick around forever because they're interested in the content because they were seeking it, and then you've delivered on the promise. So that's
You're
kind of my
giving
thing there.
something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Value. Yep.
Yeah, I want to double down on the own versus rent thing. It's actually like you're buying a house whose value can only go down. Like you're never going to get better traction on Facebook with organic or anything like that. In history, that's never happened on social. So it's just like you want to have an asset that you own entirely. With your website, also you have more control. So it's like if you're into tracking and analytics, it's very hard to track like full customer journeys via a different platform. They're walled gardens for a reason. And if you have blog posts, you can track that customer journey, especially if they sign up for an email list. But you can track that through to a product conversion. You can track that through to an email conversion, email sign up, or something like that. And then you can start optimizing. So you can start experimenting, running A/B tests, doing customer research to see how you can like increase the conversion rate from blog post to email list, from email list to sign up, or product purchase, or something like that. So having that data ownership, I think, is also an underrated facet of like having a big content base. And then you can start doing cool stuff with ads too, where you can start building audiences based on what content they're reading, what lead magnets they're signing up for, and then suddenly you have a whole new channel and a whole new flywheel to explore.
Who's running ads right now, by the way? Okay. Who's B2B? And who is B2C? Okay, so a lot of people are nothing. Correct.
So just to touch on a little bit, I've never heard it phrased as like the rent to own, but that's exactly, or not rent to own, but rent versus own. That is such a perfect metaphor. That doesn't mean you don't do ads. That doesn't mean you don't do social. You just always link back to your blog because you can control that. You can also you can do so much more with that too, inviting guest bloggers or whatever. Like you can still expand that in the same way that and get outside promotion because of those sorts of things. But I think if you provide a really good value with your blog, you're actually giving good information. It's not just a commercial. Like that's the worst. Like it has to be like authentic. But when you're doing that, then you become an organic thought leader in the space, and it feels good to go to those and like get something from it and come back and be like, oh wow, like I actually learned something. And yeah, I might have had to, put my email address in to get this one little gated piece of content or this tool that they built. By the way, gated tools, do you guys use these? Yes. This is like one of my favorite things.
What does that mean? Are you talking about lead magnets? Or is it gated?
So yeah, so you take like a little mini product. So not for this company, but I used to work in web hosting, which is like the sexiest thing to sell in the world.
Everybody wants it.
It's not. Everybody needs it, but it's literally like nobody wants to talk about it because they're pissed off they have to pay for it in the first place. It's like buying gas for your car. You're just kind of mad about it. Like, why do I have to do this? But you have to. And nobody knows what it does or really how it works. So we were in this constant struggle of like, how do we make this more interesting than like it really is, which you can't do. It just is what it is. Servers just are what they are. And so we would do like these little gated, we tried like gated content, didn't really work out for us, but we tried gated tools. So we would build, during hackathons, we'd build little tools like a site speed tool, like just literally it was test your site speed, which you can do for non-gated anywhere. Gated just means, by the way, that you have to put your information in to get the access. So whether it's access to download something, anytime I got to download a Gartner report, I'm always like trying to find somebody who has it, where I can get it, throw in my trash email and I get it. But like the tools are a little bit different. And so we would have ones like that. We would have like optimize your images, right? So are they causing your site to slow down? Are they causing, or do you have them tagged? Like things like that. And they were helpful, but they were so easy. They're like, so if you have a good dev stat, like do a hackathon, say, hey, we're trying to build like this tool that's useful, and then put it behind a web form. Web forms are not dead. Like absolutely not. Neither is email, by the way. Everybody's like, email's dead. No,
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask the next sort of question, then we'll jump into it, I promise. So we talked a lot about branding and partnerships and blogging and, getting their email. But the thing is, what if we're building something and you only get like 200 hits a month. I'm just going to go over this, and you can add whatever you want, which is, what are your 1 to 2 top tactics for traffic that you use that you know that you're really good at?
This is not me.
Yeah. I mean, on social, it's really different, but like my particular expertise is obviously on Instagram, if you guys follow me. But I've kind of learned over the years, and a lot of these tactics I used early on, and then, I got my following and I became comfortable. And now as Instagram's algorithm takes turns again, I'm relying back on all the early day things that helped me grow. But I would say hashtags are super important still. Think about, who you're trying to attract while you're using these. And so I built my following very specifically and very niche here in Austin, Texas, and obviously around food lovers. So how I did that, one was the content I was sharing was very relevant to what they would want to see, new places opening or cool old spots that maybe they'd never visited, best tacos, all of that. But anyways, I was using hashtags to do that, and then I was also tagging other relevant accounts. I was following all the relevant accounts, every chef, every restaurant, everyone who could possibly be interested in what I was doing. I was trying to make, my friend and hopefully help share what I was doing. So a lot of that like early day networking and, helped with the virality of what happened with my account. But I think for every business, it's like, you should be networking in person, you should be networking online, you should be using all of these mechanisms to find your target audience. So for me, it really was hashtags, and even the geolocation on Instagram at the top, you can find people who live in your city using that. So if you are targeting locally to begin, or maybe you're not targeting locally, but another place that your followers hang out. You have a travel business, so you start looking through airport locations and finding people who frequently travel and are posting from there regularly. Even on stories now, you can tag your location, so you can get really granular with how you're finding these types of people. So that's just a social tip. I'm sure they have other advice on finding you.
Yeah. Is that showing?
I already watched it.
It is. Oh my God. Subtraction channels. How do you get traffic to your website? How do you build demand for your product? I'll start with a terrible answer. You know what it is, I guess. And then I'll add the nuance later. It depends, which is a really stupid answer.
We're done.
Yeah. But I mean, I can clarify that. So it depends on the stage of your company. When you're small, when you're a startup, when you're kind of finding like product market fit, when you don't really know who your customers are and you have very, very little kind of visibility, you want to aim for low scale and high volatility. So like a high chance of like something interesting happening and like very little chance of it being like scalable to the point of like $100 million business. And when you're a huge business like HubSpot, you're looking for very low volatility. You want predictable traffic. You don't want any like sharp spikes or any like weird losses. But you want it to be scalable because you have investor demands, like you have we're a public company, like we need to hit our growth goals. So it's like on a spectrum there. And I think it can be summed up in I think Paul Graham's advice for like do things that don't scale when you're a startup. So like I'm not opposed to doing getting on the phone and like calling people, going to networking events. Basically, you want the fastest feedback loop to actual customers that want your product, because you want to like develop a better product. You want that to be scalable on its own. So you want to be the closest you can be to your target audience. And then once you start scaling, you're looking at scalable channels. So there's really only 4 of those, I think. I could be wrong. SEO, referral or virality, so product-driven stuff, sales, and then paid. So those are really the only channels that have like the high ceilings that like large companies can like pour a bunch of money and resources into, that have not indefinite, but like large ceilings on their returns.
Question. So when you're saying 200, when you're saying like 200 users or 200 hits or anything like that, are you talking about are you trying to grow content, try to grow a business, try to make sure people are getting to an offer? What are we trying to get to?
So let's say my bottom line is tied to the number of downloads I get on my app. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get that. I can do content, I can do networking. I just want somebody to download my app. I want 10,000 people, hypothetically.
Okay.
I want the end result, and I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what's going to work for me. So I'm curious about what are your tactics that you think are very applicable?
Yeah. Okay. So what I do, I think we talked about 2 things here where we were talking about kind of the the divide between paid and content. I mean, and SEO, paid and organic. And what's interesting, one time I actually spent $100,000 in 3 days, and
As you do, yeah.
what's that? No, but total accident. It was bad. And what you saw was you saw a spike of our paid traffic, and then do you know what followed? A spike in our organic traffic too. And then as we stopped paying, we started seeing it go down a little bit. So there is an influence on paid to organic. So one of the like 2 bits of advice: if you're going the content route, you have to put some money behind it. Understand kind of the value journey of your customer and where they're going from an awareness point to a subscribe to a convert and to an ascension model. Okay, you're gonna need to pony up. The important thing is you have to know your numbers, right? Marketing is math. Sorry, it is, right? You need to know your numbers to make sure you can say, you know what, I can spend like, and then know your numbers and how they dictate to time as well. Like I can spend time on this post, but I better get like a lot of views on this, so I'm going to have to, network my face off. I'm going to need to put some money behind it, and then I need to make sure I have a main call to action on there that pushes them to the desired end result. Well, our own desired end result, not even the customer's one at that point, because this is a pretty selfish question to ask when you're like, what do I want them to do for me? You need to know your numbers. If you're saying, hey, if I can get 500 people to this post, I can expect 5% of them to fill out whatever's on the page, and I can expect 10% of them to take the offer that's coming up next, and I can expect like X% of them to do Z, right? Like you need to just know your numbers there, and you need to know that paid and organic, they're very well connected and tied together, so you need to have a strategy there.
And when we don't have a lot of traffic, can we take industry averages to map out that math?
It gets a little volatile, like at the
And right at the start, when we have nothing.
With content now.
Yeah.
With content, no, but like you can start looking like the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. Especially if I were to do a standard funnel that's like lead magnet, entry point offer, core offer, upsell. I know that for me at Digital Marketer, it's going to be, and we train people on this all the time. It's going to be like 40, 10, 10 every time. It just no matter what industry it is, it just always happens.
Wait, 40, 10, 10 for what?
If 40% on the lead generated, and then 10% there will take take whatever upsell is there, and then or whatever up offer is there, and then 10%, 10 to 18% now convert to a sale.
Cool.
So I just know those numbers, and I can just plug it in at the top, and I go, this is what I can expect. Like I have to go and actually talk with my bosses about getting more money. So that's
not an industry thing. That is
I wouldn't say those are not industry standard, but you have to know your numbers. I know my numbers, and I can make them dance now. So, and you need to know yours, and then
Traction stage before you have any like indication of numbers.
you have to roll it out. You have to try it out.
Yeah,
Like you
yes.
just don't wuss out.
like find whatever you can in the market.
Exactly.
Take your gut, mesh those together. At least give yourself a goal and a benchmark, and just like work.
Yeah,
towards
if you have numbers on a board and no goal, you've wasted your time. You've wasted your
it.
time.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Not really.
So how much time do we have? What time is it?
All night, guys.
7:10.
Until
Cool.
the white claw goes out.
How much minutes? 5? Okay, cool.
Time to go.
All right, so one last question. So let's say that you personally invested $10,000 on a 3-person team on a startup. Like you really like them, they're great, fantastic. And you don't see them for 6 months. If you come back to them, what's something that's going to make you say, I'm glad I invested in these people? And one thing that's going to be like, I'm never seeing my money again. Especially when it comes to marketing and getting customers. And anyone can jump in, rapid fire.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess my initial thoughts are like I wouldn't want them to blow it all on marketing. I do think putting some into marketing and making sure the brand is established is important, especially coming from my perspective with very, B2C style companies. But I think also like investing in the tools for your team is really important, and having them do a lot of it more like guerrilla marketing style. One of my startups, like a mistake that we had made early on was that we were going into fashion retail and we just bought a bunch of product early on, and that wasn't smart necessarily because we bought product kind of blindly before we did enough talking to our customers to realize like what was going to sell. The people buying the product, we didn't all know, what we were buying for or our purpose. So I think that's one thing I would avoid is definitely don't, buy a bunch of materials with that money right away until you know what that's going to go towards. I would spend more on your people and tools to help them be successful and hopefully, go out there and hustle and talk to a lot of people and build an early following that, to a point where you know what the customer wants and then spend later on that.
Yeah.
So.
I'd say for me, this one's nice and quick. I know I'm long-winded. But if I came back and they had a product built and they've either done they haven't done both of these things, created a customer avatar or persona that they were going after, or they haven't talked to a customer. Yeah. That's it. I'd be like, my money's gone. Burn it.
100%. Yeah. I don't think I would. First of all, if $10,000 was going to be a meaningful amount for somebody, whatever. Like they better have like at least their best guess at like a customer persona. Going back to what you're saying about materials and inventory and stuff, if you're buying raw materials, you got to just like suck it up and kind of do it. Do obviously the bare minimum that you can until you understand what that's going to be like. But if you're buying a finished product, do not buy a damn thing until you sell it. You can just say like in early stages like, oh my God, this was so popular. It's going to be 6 weeks to get it, and then go to wherever your supplier is and get it. Do not stock inventory. End of story, period. Don't do it. Raw material, yeah, you got to do it because you're making it. Finished product, absolutely not. For like as long as you can. As long as you can push that out, push it out. Like it's fine. Don't ever lie. Like that. Well, that's the other thing. If like have some integrity about your business and yourself, don't do that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think the best large companies have these two elements, but the best startups have to have these. Otherwise, like I don't know. I guess I haven't seen many that worked that didn't. A very close and rapid, frequent contact with the customer. So if they're not talking to them almost every day and like figuring out what to build for them, I think that's a dead end. If you end up building the wrong thing, like that's a big expensive mistake. It's very hard to turn around from. And then just being scrappy people. So it's like you may not have the resources. A $10,000, $100,000, $1 million round doesn't go that far. So even in that stage, like you need to be like, I guess not burning your money just because you have it, figuring out cheap and fast ways to like get fast feedback loops and quick customers. And you're really in like the figuring out stage. Like you're almost like solving for you have a hypothesis that this is your market and this is your customer, but you want to like prove or disprove that with as much information as you can, as fast as you can. So I would look for scrappy founders who are trying some interesting stuff where I'm like, holy shit, that's smart. I would never have thought of that. So I don't have like the tactic, but I would want to be like impressed by their ingenuity, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely, just going back to like what I would actually want to see when I came back, I would want to see research. Like what market research did you do? Well, like I am assuming you did some before I invested, but now that you've actually put it out, like what have you done since then? I want to see that you're tracking your numbers. I want to see that you know like what your sales cycle is, or guesstimate at what your sales cycle is at least. You know, what your average order size is, what your closing rate is, if you're doing pay-per-click, I want to see your pay-per-click to sale and every number in between. Like I want to know how much that pay-per-click, like how many of those went to an actually got a demo or a form request or whatever, and then what was converted to an opportunity, and then what was converted to a demo or a RFP or whatever you're doing, and then what actually closed one. The people who are doing that sort of stuff and understand that that's important, they're going to know when they're doing poorly. If they're not doing that and they're just like, yeah, we're doing great and I'm so excited about my thing, and I'm like, cool, show me your balance sheet. And they're like, well, we got, and I'm like, again, the Napoleon Dynamite, just like, so, I mean, that's the thing. Going to your, like, scrappy people, dude, yeah, absolutely. Like, things I look for when I hire people or things I look for when I'm investing, whether it's a giant company or a small one, is grit, resourcefulness, empathy, and like, are you passionate about anything? Like maybe it's not even your business, but do you have some sort of passion outside of your life that you might be able to get passionate about something else? Those 4 things can like transfer, and curiosity, endless curiosity. Something's broken, how do I fix it? Like those things are like, that person, whoever has those 5 things, forget it. Put all your money towards them, they're gonna figure it out.
I think the opposite of scrappiness then would be like wastefulness in my mind. So I think the worst thing would be if I came back and they had like the swankiest office space with a gym and like
Or they ran into like a speed bump. They were like, ah.
yeah. And a website that looks way too good for their company size. And be like, what are you doing? Yeah, all the conferences. Yeah.
But we have $250 million in investment.
Yeah, you don't go and you're like
running at $100 million
two people in a garage. You know. Yeah.
But like if you're just going to a ton of conferences and you're not making that worth it with follow-up, that's just an expensive appearance. That's not like, visual marketing. That's not like,
That's your ego, right? Look at me, I'm a
Yeah.
founder, I'm doing this.
Basically,
I'm
I
so
mean,
popular.
Yeah, that's like playing entrepreneur versus building a company.
It's cheap as hell.
Yeah.
You can probably get a free ticket. Send whoever is a woman in your office and she'll get a free pass.
Boom.
Like, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
You guys got a ride for a while. Now we get one.
One more thing about networking and relationships. It's a great trick. One more thing. So we go to events. Who here is not going to events where their target market is? So yes. So everyone's going to some place where their target market is, right? One of the best ways to connect with people is when you meet them, add them on a platform that you constantly make content on. So even if you don't see them for 6 months and you post content every week about something that you're doing, that you're good at, that your company is good at, and you're solving a problem, in 6 months, they're going to have a very good idea of who you are, and you're going to have authority in their eyes. You never have to see them again. Talk to somebody here and be like, what's your Instagram, what's your Facebook, what's your LinkedIn, whatever is your favorite platform. With that, thank you to the panelists very much. That was so helpful. Now, Q&A after a round of applause. I see you. Boom. Yes.
Hi, thanks. I'm building a hardware product, and I think a large portion of my business is going to be B2G. Do you guys have any advice or experience selling to military and government?
I don't. Do you guys?
Yeah, I'd be making it up. I don't know.
What I can tell you is there are organizations, accelerators specifically here that deal with companies that, what is the one?
Bunker Labs?
Yes. Go talk to them. They'll,
Bunker Labs.
there we go. Talk to her.
Hey, I'll come see you afterward.
Thank you. Yeah. So talk to yeah. Let her answer. Actually, can she answer real quick?
Oh, yeah. You want to talk about Bunker Labs?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Like even
Even some advice, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Shady DeJesus. I'm with Bunker Labs. We're a national organization for veteran entrepreneurship support. That's anything from idea stage to anyone who's raised $1 million or more. There's reach back in the community, depending on if you're trying to sell back into government, if that's the environment that you came from, or if you're doing lifestyle or any other type of medical business, whatever it might be. So those ecosystems here are very developed because we have Army Futures Command and a lot of government agencies. So I'd be more than happy to assist. I know some other folks in here I've also helped as well. So feel free to reach out to me. There's, depending on what you're trying to do with the government, it's really specific if it's contracting or if it's just addressing a need that's technical, the avenues are going to be different. So yeah.
Yes. And then who else? Who wants to go after this?
Hello. So, I've noticed that you all are part of HubSpot, Digital Head of Marketing, and BigCommerce, which is really cool. So these are larger companies that have a lot of funding, right? So for startups, particularly startups that don't have funding, what would you recommend in terms of the marketing, grassroots, bootstrapping with no money? How would you go about that to kind of build that base ultimately over time until you can secure funding in your pre-seed or seed round? Because I think it's a lot easier when you have the cash behind you, right? And you have that. But how do we do that as startup founders now, where we're still trying to refine our product, but also figure out how to get it out there to people?
There's a cool framework. I think my manager taught me it. I think Ramit Sethi might have developed it. It's like go where the fish are. So you have to figure out where your target customer lives and breathes and like hangs out. So that could be conferences, that could be Slack groups, that could be LinkedIn groups. it doesn't, I have no idea, like, depending on the company. Like, I know where that is for, like, let's say Lawn Starter, the first startup that I joined. Just me and the founders, pre-seed, MVP, like, barely workable product. It was SEO. Like, so basically, it was a lawn care app that you could book, like, lawn care providers, kind of like Uber for lawn care. When somebody wants lawn care, they're not following lawn care providers on social media. They're not signing up for an email list. They're searching when they need it, when their lawn's, 10 inches too high and, like, the HOA's on their ass. So they would search lawn care in Austin. So we knew our SEO was our channel. So we basically had to hack away with content, try to get some sharp spikes if we could in local publications for like PR related stuff. But really, like, we knew kind of where the customers would be. So we started chipping away at that channel. HubSpot, I would say, since it's B2B, like, if I were starting over today, I think I would start very small, almost talking, like, just to, like, people at conferences, getting some feedback, demos, one-to-one type stuff, very unscalable, like founder talking to different prospects. So it really depends on the market, but go where the fish are, I would say. That would be the generic advice.
So I've been in many startups, and well, I've been in a couple, but then I consulted for many. It's hard, and it's gonna be more expensive than you ever think it is. So your network is going to be really important. You need to find friends of your company who are not necessarily invested. They can be, that's great. But these are people like, find a friend who is a lawyer. Find a friend who like is a consultant, who's willing to like hang out with you, meet for coffee. Don't take up too much of their time because that's legitimately their job and how they feed their family and pay their mortgage. But like, if you have a question, like when I was consulting, I charged, but I also did a lot of like stuff just because I was interested in what it was, right? Find a really good mentor. Every single one of the people in your company, whatever they're doing, go find a mentor. Like find somebody, whether they're local or not, to go, is that bad? Movie's like, oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's the thing, because that network and that, unpopular opinion, but truth is, Austin is a really great place for like lifestyle businesses and entrepreneurs. It is a really difficult city to start a real business that's going to turn into even a $10 million, $20 million, $50 million, and sure as hell like a $1 billion like unicorn, right? It's hard. We don't have the money here. You go to Silicon Valley, they're like throwing money at the worst ideas ever, and like they burn it, and then it's over, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. Here, you can have an amazing idea. You can have an amazing company. You can have like up to $20,000 revenue coming in every month, low churn. You're like bootstrapping, ramen rich. That means that at the end of the month you can always buy at least a pack of ramen, and you're gonna get terms that are like so harsh. So like we want 45% of your company, and we want 2 seats on the board, and right. So like you guys have done this. You're in this. You've been there. It's hard here. So you're gonna have to do the extra work if you want to stay in Austin. I think it's worth it. Like I wouldn't want to go to Silicon Valley and try to do it there, but you're gonna have to like find those people who are willing to be friends of your business and network your business for you where you don't have the space to do it. Like you have a connection to somebody who has a connection to somebody who has a connection to Mark Cuban, fucking follow it. Like eat that and just like, and don't be too aggressive, like be nice. Always go into any of this with a specific ask, and that's it. And not too much, not something, crazy, but like those are the sorts of things that you really have to do here if you're going to make your business more than just, lifestyle business. Lifestyle business meaning when you stop working or go on vacation, the revenue stops coming in, right? You want to be able to walk away from your business. Your job as a CEO, by the way, is to make your company in such a way that you can walk away from your company and nothing happens. It just keeps churning. The best CEO can just walk away and it's fine. Right? If you're too involved, like in the beginning, yes, but like that's your goal. So it's tough, but it's doable.
One way to connect with people at conferences, etc., is if you see someone on a panel or you see someone on stage and you talk to them, you only have 60 seconds. You say hi, you give them a compliment, blah, love your talk, blah, blah, blah. You ask a super easy question, which is like, hey, what brand shoe are you wearing? What's your favorite book on marketing? Where'd you go to school? Something really simple, and they reply. Hopefully, you say thank you, and boom, 2-minute interaction done. Now, if you want to talk to them again, you email them on the same thread, always and always. I am currently doing that with somebody that I've had a thread for 3 years. It's hard, but it's very possible because you can just reach out to them and they'll see, I've talked to this person 6 times in the last year. It must mean something to me, so I always do that. Cool, last question. Cool, you asked way before, so I'm going to have to give it to you.
Okay, thanks. So let's say you got a website going, you got some MVP content out there, it's as good as you can make it, but you want to try and drive promotion. You want to try and get other people. I mean, you want to work the hell out of it because it's your highest value content. So how do you go? How do you go attract people and other bloggers and reviewers to go write about it so that they can link to your site and elevate the value of your content? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, yeah, I think I mean, if you're at a stage where you're comfortable, kind of launching the company in the public eye, I would say to reach out to press outlets, maybe locally first, or, if it's a big enough idea, you could pitch some national outlets, but you can start getting magazines and, different local publications to write and talk about you and hopefully link to your site. That's a great start. Obviously, there's bloggers like myself, too. It really depends on the type of product that you have, that you're marketing, but find the people who are already writing about that and publishing content and get them to hopefully drive some awareness, or at least make them aware of what you're doing. Like he was just saying, it's like you can start that conversation anywhere. At least try to get those kind of people in your court and to know about what you're doing, and then you can, continue that conversation as long as need be until hopefully their interest peaks and they're like, oh, this is really unique and cool and we need to write about it, and they see your value point. So
reach out to them and say, hey, we're here, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would link, like you said, there's some content on the site now that you're really proud of. Like, I would link to that. I would make a point in the initial email, keep it really short and sweet, but, maybe mention what you're talking about, what your product is, and why it's unique in the marketplace.
Does platform matter? Like, do you try to figure out what platform they like and use that to reach out to them, or do you reach out to the one they don't use as much because maybe not as many people are using it?
It's different depending if it's like media or obviously bloggers and influencers. Like a lot of people reach out to me via direct message because I'm on Instagram. It's actually probably the worst way to reach me because I'm getting so many messages just from like fans and other people that follow, versus like if it's a business inquiry, I'd really like that to come through email. With traditional media, they all have their emails listed usually somewhere online, or I wouldn't even pay at this point for like a software to look for emails for press because you can probably find them listed somewhere, especially at the local level.
I have so the thing with getting, it's not hard to find that emails getting their attention. If you email me or if you Instagram DM me on Not That Movie, I have a list of 20,000 press lists that I stole from somebody else. So woohoo, steal. Anyway.
Friend of your company.
Sure, I have no idea who that person is that I took it from, but they shared it somewhere. All right, perfect.
Well, you're now a friend of all these guys.
That's for Rachel, Nicole, Justin, Alex. Thank you very much. Woo!